Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life.
All right, Hats.
Brendo, how are you?
I'm a little disturbed because I think I just broke my mic, but
Tell everybody how you broke your mic.
I had a sip of beer and missed my mouth.
As you do.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so today we have Patrick from Perth Heat. How are you, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming, mate. Can you tell us your Twitter handle? It's CBO...
_21.
CBO _21. Do we want to actually ask about that first?
I would like to go back a little bit further, if that's okay with you, Patrick.
I'm ready.
Because, you've obviously been doing the media rounds in the last month or so, and so I've listened to some of them and they've been really good. But I would just like to understand your Bitcoin story a little bit before you get to the team, and then and then I'd like to understand how that transition happened, if that's okay. You happy to go there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's start there. So, much like the stories that you hear, my Bitcoin journey started with one of my cousins at a Christmas sort of luncheon, talking about Bitcoin, how his friends were getting rich, and immediately, you turn off instantly just the attitude and the, some 16-year-old kid telling you about the future of the world. And that was my first foray, probably 2000, I don't know what it would have been, 2013 maybe. And didn't really think about it again, kept getting touched by it again and again and again in certain ways, never really putting any thought into it, didn't really have the space or the time in my career to set aside what I now understand is the volume of, I don't want to say study, but the volume of time necessary to sort of grasp the ideas and to even be in the frame of mind to want to embrace or engage with those ideas. And then 2016 rolled around. And
you're in Australia at this point, is that right?
In Australia, yeah, everything in Australia. And just exposed to the idea of it was there in 2013, and here it is again in 2016. Hasn't completely gone away, and slowly but surely started to do more research. Just started to learn more because I now had, with other things that had happened in my life, I just was able to afford the time of my life to be able to study it a little bit more and get a little bit educated, and just started slowly accumulating, just like any asset. I used to fancy myself as a bit of an investor, a trader back in the day. Like that's how I got started in 2008, maybe 2009 I used to love futures. Like I just used to love trading futures. I don't know what it was. It was weird. Nobody else around me liked it. It was just something that I did on my own just to sort of study up. And it's kind of fun. You dabble in and out of that business. So I'd always been in that mind in the financial world, sort of on the side. And then it just obviously grew from 2016. It was like, okay, now I need to start paying attention. What actually is this thing? It becomes a larger part of the portfolio. You start going over it again and again and again. You start learning more. You become intrigued, right? And you just fall down the rabbit hole as you do. And then from there, it was, obviously the amount of energy that the Bitcoin network has received. The people that have held it for a certain amount of time have received great benefit from that. And I'm sort of a product of that world of now. It's allowed me to sort of lift my head up from the sand and figure out where I can be most beneficial. Like, what can I do? Where can I invest my energy that is going to have the greatest return, not only to myself, but to the people around me, right? Because I think, as probably we'll get into this conversation, really that's what Bitcoin teaches you, right? Is that just how energy works and just how you can be productive in the world, and how that can be beneficial for you and for everybody around you. And from there, so transfer that to the Perth Heat story, is I knew Steve, and we started talking in, late 2019, it would have been. And we had, I fancy myself as a bit of an orange pillar, right? You just get into I do it more out of the fun that you get from hearing people's arguments, right? Because you're going to hear the same thing over and over and over from everybody. And the more that
you reckon you're pretty practiced now.
That's it. It's like there's only about 8 paths that you're going to have to go down. But there is a tact in being able to say, okay, how do I not only answer the question or maybe debunk the FUD, but how do I also set up the next domino, like in the right spot? Because you don't just want to like cut somebody off and say, I'm right, you're wrong. I just showed you, you're fucked. Now, no, it's like
we do like saying that though, don't we?
Yes. I mean, there's a certain element to it, but is that productive? That's the question. And yeah, do you get more buy-in from that? It's fun to see, like, it's like a choose your own adventure of, well, if I go down this path, it's like a little game of chess that you can just see, the moves that the person is doing. It's like you're playing chess with someone that just started. It's like you want to bait them a little bit. You want to bring them along slowly, depending on who you're talking to. And it's just a fun little side project for me that I enjoy. Yeah. So I started doing that with Steve.
So when you were talking to Steve, how did you meet him? You weren't actually working for Perth Heat at that stage?
No, I don't. No involvement with Perth Heat at all. It was more like I had access to this information. He was interested in the information, which again comes back to that idea of, as you start to orange pill people, you start to recognize things that work and don't work. And you quickly realize that, Uncle Jim at Thanksgiving is probably going to be a no. Like it's not the time or the place, or they don't have the energy necessary to go through the process, and you're not going to win many battles. So you need someone, obviously it's better if someone comes to you with a little bit of interest, because that means that they have been thinking about it. And over the course of the last, I don't know, probably since 2017, right? There was a lull in 18, but after that, there has been, people have more no coiners, pre-coiners are starting to, they just get little hints of it. And then when it comes up in conversation, it's not quite as hard to get just that spark of interest, right? It's just that number of touches that they need where, you're not starting the conversation from a point of zero, where you have to really start at the beginning, even explain what it is. And surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, really, that makes a huge difference. Like the things that you don't have to go over now, you don't have to explain fiat. You don't have to do these things on near the level that you had to. So you become much more efficient in that process. So Steve, took it on board like most individuals, and had the time to invest and had the motivation, right? You have to have a little bit of motivation, either financial or for some other reason, right? You're looking in today's world, there's lots of reasons to be concerned with the things around you. It doesn't just have to be financial. And he was in the spot to do that. And, kudos to him. He quickly recognized that we're in a unique opportunity here in Perth with the Perth Heat, with the baseball team, with the freedom that they have, with the, it's not like Major League Baseball. It's not like the NHL or the NBA, where you have these huge bodies of oversight and it's just a big, giant oil tanker of a corporation or a set of corporations. It's like, we're pretty nimble, right? We play in a league with teams, but everyone is it's sort of the Wild West. And we have this opportunity to really capitalize on what the Bitcoin network can offer from, everything from an infrastructure standpoint to the number go up technology to all those things. But really, it's just about recognizing, well, if this is better for me, I'm in charge of a group of people who all have their energy pointed at a single goal, which is being a good baseball team. If it's better for me and I'm trying to be a better person, it's probably better for the baseball team too. It's like you just have to get those extra few steps, and pretty soon the interest starts to show up, and then they start finding situations and problems where this will actually help. It's like, of course, the meme, Bitcoin fixes everything. To a certain extent, depending on how far you go, it can work. You sound crazy, but to a certain extent, you can talk your way.
You can construct an argument around most topics why Bitcoin would make things better. Certainly, right?
That's it.
The more you think about it, the easier that becomes, and the more angles, as you say, you're coming from different angles with different people with different priorities. But once you've been there for 2, 3, 4 years, you've had those conversations before, and you can go better. Steve is the CEO of Perth Heat, right?
Yes.
So Steve was a friend. He was your friend, or
Steve is I know through my wife. So
okay.
He's my, what does that make him? He's my wife's brother.
Oh, okay.
So
what does that make him?
So brother-in-law, really? That's what we'd say.
Gotcha. And so, okay, so yeah. So he came to Europe, you came to him, or you annoyed him for long enough, and then eventually he caved and he
brought it up.
Okay.
He brought it up.
That's our story. Okay. That's exactly our story.
Yeah. Like, well,
you
just wait it out.
Yeah. So, sorry, you said something that's quite interesting though, because you said the club are nimble, and that to me, when I heard that, immediately I'm thinking, well, Michael Saylor was nimble, El Salvador are nimble, individuals are nimble. So it's the people who have control over their own destiny, if you like, for themselves or business or whoever it is, or even country. because people who are in a highly regulated environment, they're maybe answering to a board or they have a minority share in their company, they're finding it much more difficult. They'll get there, but they're not going to get there first. So does that sort of ring true with the Perth Heat?
Absolutely. Like, that was the main talking point. You can imagine if we were having these conversations leading up to the beginning of 2020, and that was when it really started to click. Sort of January 2020 was like, okay, this is actually this is a high possibility. Now it's about figuring out how we're actually going to do it and what was the infrastructure going to be behind it. But it was like, this is a thing, and it's going to be fun. As a Bitcoiner, as I just wanted to see someone do exactly what we've done. Like, just go all in. Like, let's see if it works. Let's test the hypothesis. And once that happened, Michael Saylor comes out not too long later. What is it, like 5 months later or something? You can imagine my position. I'm someone that has been saying this. I think this will work. Like, I'm pretty sure this is going to work, guys. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, sort of makes sense. But why don't we see anybody doing it? Like, the main trepidation was, why don't we see other people doing it? And it was exactly what you just said. It's like they have to go through all of the levels of bureaucracy, all of the sponsors that they already have in place. If you think about some of these major teams, or even the organizations, like leave aside organizations for a second, think about the teams, right? They have so many sponsors that are in place, so many rules with the leagues that they are in, with the broadcast rights that they have, with everything, with the logo, with the city that they're in, with the contract with the stadium that they're in. Like, you couldn't be a more blank slate to jump on the opportunity of saying, we can transfer everything to the Bitcoin network, everything. And we had no restrictions, no pushback.
And that's, let's just be clear here. You guys haven't, it's not like you've just got, a player who's decided, you've convinced one player to take their salary in Bitcoin. You guys are, the merch is doing it. The tickets, I think, are doing it. There's memberships and things like that's going to do it. Players are taking salaries. So you've gone, like, head first.
You couldn't get any more.
Yeah.
If we tried. that was the goal.
So how hard was that? I mean, have you got board members that are like, what the hell? Like, what's, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, even though we all know it's broke. Like,
yeah. What
was that process? Was it a quick sell? Did it take some time to actually really get everybody on board, or it seems very quick?
Yes, it is quick, but I think like we talked about before, just being able to identify what elements of an orange pill are actually going to affect someone, and everyone's going to be different. And if you take the players, right, how you approach them and how you talk about this process is going to be different than if we go to the board. And really, as soon as Steve came on board, right, it sort of speaks to the organization and the leadership or the belief in his leadership that they have to even embrace the idea of, like, bringing it up. Because you can imagine the level of nerves when you go into the board meeting for the first time and say, hey guys, we're going to switch everything to internet money, like magic internet money. Are we in? And everyone's like, Steve, what the fuck? You're like,
yeah,
you just bring it up like that, right? So it was about us coming up with a process. So, okay, we need to get the easiest thing that you can do is, especially now that there is so much education, there's so much content, there's so many, I don't want to say, well, success stories, right? Like, there's so many stories of things working well and proven track record of things working well, that you just identify little wins. And if we can take people understanding little wins of how Bitcoin can make the organization or the individual more efficient, those start to add up really quickly. And if you do that enough times, people start to say, okay, well, that's 3 or 4 points that you've made that we can see that are clear. Okay, let's investigate this more, right? And then they get, fortunately for us, we've got a board that they're enthusiastic about baseball, obviously, but they're also enthusiastic about all the businesses that they run on their own. Like, we've got an ownership team that is, this is a very small percentage of the capital that they control, right? Is in this. It's not like owning the New York Yankees or something, right?
Yeah.
So it's a small minority. So this is a test case. They got the interest of, okay, this is almost a test case of, if this works, or if these ideas work, this might be a playground to be able to explore those ideas and to see what is happening. Because we were essentially, my pitch is, after you get through all of the efficiency things, like in a business, on transactions, we're going to save percentage versus using Visa or American Express. We can do that right now. It's like, okay, what do we have to do that? We're going to have to get a team together. There's going to be infrastructure. No, you just sign up for an email. Essentially, that's what you're doing, right? You just tap in. I can just save you 2% across 5 years. That adds up to be quite a bit. Okay. What are some of the other pain points you have? The previous years, you might have heard us talk about this on other podcasts, but this was a really big sticking point because it can turn into a complete shit show, is we have a lot of foreign players that come each year to the Perth Heat, right? And we pay the players, the team pays the players so that to play baseball, to win baseball games, right? Which, again, we could probably get into the utility of why baseball is important and why playing baseball games is important and what the value that brings to society is. But that's what the service that they are offering and they're being compensated for is playing baseball. So we want to make them as efficient as possible on the baseball field, which means eliminating everything that is not baseball, everything that distracts them from that goal, especially when they're coming here. We're not bringing them here 6 months before the season starts. It's like a very quick turnaround. It's a very short season. It's all about, again, getting up to speed as fast as we can with a whole bunch of new players. The last thing we need them to do is to sit in a bank for 3 days. And, these are fairly young individuals, right, who are traveling to foreign countries. It's sometimes not the most organized, right? So there's going to be issues with paperwork. There's going to be issues with bank clearance. It could be days. And those days, when added up over the course of the year, that is a tremendous expense that can be completely avoided, right? And then the hassle of closing down all those bank accounts, the hassle of getting the money back, the hassle of chasing people up, of late fees from the bank piling up, and you co-signed, and it all turns crazy. It's like, well, those, we can eliminate those right now. And it doesn't takes nothing on the input side.
I mean, that's such a great example of how Bitcoin is a superior money on a global stage. Doesn't matter where you are, who you are, you can go anywhere with it.
Yeah, there's no language.
There's
no bank in between. There's no. Where am I going to go with that? So, it all sounds good. I'm just this sort of devil's advocate, but you've got a player coming from, say they're coming from the States to play for you. Are you having to convince every new player that comes in prior to them coming that this is what you need to, this is what we're going to do to set up so you're going to get paid? Or how does that process work in terms of bringing somebody internationally?
No, these are good because this is the exact questions that you go through the process of, because your mind immediately goes to, again, you want to be as unintrusive, is that a word, as possible. Like you don't want to get in the way. You don't want to make things more complicated for players coming in, right? That's what we're trying to eliminate with this subject. Yeah. So the infrastructure gains that we have seen in Bitcoin over the last 24 months have been, if you're not in the world of looking for solutions, you don't see these solutions. But the buildup behind the scenes of being able to onboard and have solutions ready for the problems that we were facing in these situations were non-existent before, and now they exist. And it just sort of happened, right? Again, we didn't do anything. We're just taking advantage of it. People just create these solutions. So when players come in now, then this is almost sort of one of the reasons I think we've seen so much traction in the announcement is that this is different than, and hopefully significantly different than what we have seen from other players, whether they be soccer players, football players in Europe, or in America with basketball players, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Rodgers, those people who are deciding to take a portion of their salary, right? That is an individual who has made the decision. Again, if Aaron Rodgers was the CEO of Aaron Rodgers Inc., he would, put part of it on the Bitcoin standard. Steve, in charge of a organization, says, okay, it makes sense. We're going to put the whole thing, but it's from the top down now. So the default is we want you to win. Like as an organization, we want to put everyone in the best possible position to benefit from this information that we have and that we're willing to share. And hopefully we can educate people on why that is going to be the case, but that's going to be the default. So from the top down, it's Bitcoin. And then if you want other things, then it's up to you to be able to fix those things. But as you say, like someone coming in that may not know the system, may not be aware of what we are trying to do, for them, it's a one-time click of a button. And they don't even have to click the button themselves. They can tell us. They say, I would like to take 100% of my salary in fiat. Okay, we put the slider to 100%, but you're getting Bitcoin. If you want fiat, we can change it for you, but you're getting Bitcoin.
Okay. But so practically, are you the hand holder there with the new individual that's coming in? Are you the guy?
Yeah, all of the people that come on board now. I mean, essentially the team is sort of onboarded now, so that job is done. But if we do get new people into the organization, and to them again, it's the same way that they would have to if they arrived and didn't want to be involved in the Bitcoin system, they would have to do more work than now. Because now, if they want their money, all they have to do is say, I just want my money in Australian dollars. Can you make that happen? Yes, we can. Here's the service. You don't have to do anything. Here's the service, right? This is where your paycheck comes from. You'll see it in your bank. And you never have to interact with the system again. Now, probably in the locker room, you're going to get some shit for it while everyone is enjoying the benefits. But,
Sure.
We've seen people come around. Like, obviously, there's going to be some people that are very open to the idea. There's going to be others that are more reluctant to the idea. But we've seen the positive feedback that we've had inside the group, speaks to the organization, speaks to the leadership team and to the rollout of it all and just how smoothly it's gone. But we try our best to, I guess that is my role really, is to try and identify where problems might lie with people and just because it's fair enough to think, well, this is how I think it's going to work. Like all of the businesses are in place to be able to help us, to hold it on the balance sheet, to pay the players, to pay the staff, to have it running at the stadium. But we're walking and then hopefully running. It's like we don't know exactly how this is going to end up. This is why we wanted to be in this position in the first place. It's like, let's get in. Let's jump in the water. And then
there's a huge early mover advantage.
That's it.
And across but if you're the team, you're the Bitcoin baseball team now, right?
Yeah.
That can be taken away.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, we both listened to you guys on Stefan, our lesser Australian counterpart. And I remember, I think you said, or maybe Steve said, one of the players wanted to be paid up front 5 years of his salary in Bitcoin, which is very, very, very smart.
Yeah.
So okay, let's have a question about that. Let's not go into the guy's personal situation, but so he must have been. He was a Bitcoiner before, right? You weren't convincing him. You weren't convincing him at all.
Again, like within the organization, obviously, if you're a professional athlete, just by nature of the profession that you have chosen, you have to be young-ish to be a professional athlete, right? You're not going to be 60 playing baseball. You have to be fairly physically fit, right? It's baseball, you can get away with it a little bit. There's some more than others, but instantaneously that shows you that they understand the values that are instilled by, or the incentives that are offered in the Bitcoin system. So they get it. The athletes are the easiest people to orange pill, which is probably why you've seen the announcement that you've seen, right? Yeah. Significantly easier because they understand energy, even though they may not understand the word energy and just how it applies to their life, but they understand that no one else can lift the weights for you. No one else can do the batting practice. No one else can make you a better pitcher. You have to get out there. You have to put in the work. You have to provide the value. You have to put in the energy to get that. So yes, going to those.
So the training pitch is your proof of work, right?
Exactly. That's
the same. It's the same thing.
Yes, it is the perfect analogy, and it makes sense to them because they go, okay, just imagine the reverse, because the hardest part of orange pilling people is getting them to understand that they don't know what money is in the first place. They don't know how the fiat system works. It's just has been the classic fish in the water. What is water line? It just has been around them their whole lives, and they just know that this is how you get the money. This is where the money goes. This is where you store it. But athletes, if you can frame it in the way that, let's take Saquon Barkley, right? Professional running back in the NFL. Okay, you go to Saquon and you say all that work that you've done with your body, all that time that you've spent in energy, all that energy that you have spent developing your skills, doing all those things to make yourself the best that you can possibly be, right? That is the risk that you have put in. That's the time, that's the energy that you have put in, and you're supposed to be rewarded for that, right? Ultimately, that's the investment that you're making in that time. You could be doing other stuff with it, but you want to become the best football player for whatever reason. You like football, it doesn't matter. You're investing that energy. One day, the NFL comes out and says, the New York Jets, they're going to get the first pick in the draft, and they're going to choose a new player called Cyborg. And Cyborg can just download all of that shit that you spent years and years doing. They can just get that right now. And if you're Saquon, you'd be like, well, that's a bummer, because that guy's going to be the best player and there's no point playing the game. So, I guess I'll find something else to do. And the NFL says, no. You can't actually stop playing. You have to keep playing. You're like, okay, well, are there going to be lots of cyborgs? Are these people going to be all over? No, there's only going to be one. There's going to be one cyborg, and you guys still have to play the game. And he can just take all of that time that you're putting in. They just get it. And they're not allowed, you're not allowed to have whatever technology they have. It's like, well, that puts you at a major disadvantage. It's like, I'm putting in the energy. This person's not, yet they can be as good at the game or better than the game, right? Because they can do things that you can't do. It's like, well, that's a little bit unfair. So making that analogy for people, they start to go, okay, well, I understand how the fiat system works. Yes, that makes sense. I understand energy input. Okay, that makes sense. And slowly but surely, the athletes start to pick it up very quickly. So it's really from a pitch, from an orange pill point of view, it's like easy. Athletes, easy. The staff, different. Again, the board, different. They're looking for different solutions. Luckily enough.
Just, I've got one more thing, if that's right. Competitive sports, men and women, have got two things going in their favor, I think. They're competitive people, right? So they're looking for the edge all the time. So they're constantly questioning and looking for the edge, but also, as you said before, they tend to be in the younger age, under 35, or generally 16 to 35 or something, like professional sports people. And so we've mentioned this before, but if you consider that the money was broken in 71, now frankly maybe it was broken long before that, or maybe we've never had any at all, but if we consider that it's broken in 71, that's 50 years of people's working lives that are essentially based on a fraud. And when you say that to people, it's like you're saying to them, you're a fraud. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what you were working for was a fraud. You've been defrauded. You're not the one committing the fraud. But if somebody has put 50 years into their career, it's very difficult to convince them of something, of all of the effort they put in has not really been really worth it. That's a difficult thing to say. But a younger person is easier to convince, because they have to give away less of. There's less time. They've been working for less time, and they are competitive. So it's like, as you say, it's just. I hadn't even considered it. I hadn't even considered the fact why are we seeing? Well, actually, what I thought I was seeing when I was seeing the sports people coming in, particularly the big names, was that they are constantly looking for an edge over other sports people. So like maybe that's their edge. I'm a Bitcoin, NFL guy, or but maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it's that they're just looking for they're competitive people, and they're younger and there's less to give away. Is there differences between the players in terms of how they've reacted?
Yeah, absolutely. Like any large group of individuals, they're all going to see the positives and negatives of it. Yeah. But I guess the selling point, again, going back to trying to frame every conversation with the benefits, and then address the issues that they might have before they bring them up. So at least you acknowledge that those exist and they might have fear. The more that you can do that, the more you can show that you're ahead on the curve, and you can provide solutions that will take care of those concerns. The more trust that gets built up. And so again, just going back to, we're actually making the process of getting paid is now actually easier for the players. Even if you want fiat, like say someone was not buying in and saying, I just want 100% fiat. It's actually simpler now than it was before. Like the way that the paychecks actually get to them from a organizational, like an infrastructure point of view, it's actually easier. So you still see the money in your account. So there's no risk, but what it does do, right? And what sports really have been good for, which is why you see so much money in advertising and trying to get crypto.com to do the stadium, is individuals know that the community looks up to these people for a reason, right? They enjoy, even if they don't know it, people enjoy seeing the benefits of low time preference, right? That is essentially what you're doing when you consume sports. You're seeing that, I want to see people doing things I didn't think was possible because they've dedicated energy to it. And that allows me to be better. And that allows me to think bigger and to be more innovative and to develop more technology. So they see those big pictures, and it's about, from a group point of view, just making it known that we're here with solutions when you want them. If you don't want them, that's fine. It's easier. But trying to build that trust as quick as you can with little wins helps sort of level out those concerns.
So are you finding, I suppose, that being on a Bitcoin standard now becomes an incentive for other players globally? Obviously, you're very early as an organization. So are you finding or getting approached by players saying, hey, I'm interested?
Yes. Well, that was sort of the point where I was going before. I lost my train of thought. That what we are seeing is, because people look up to sports, or they look up to the athletes, it's almost like okay, maybe you might have heard of Bitcoin along the way. It might have touched you some way, like your cousin at a Christmas party or whatever it is. And you thought, this is a little bit strange. The more of those touch points you have with the more legitimate or more well-respected, or, it's hard to hate on sports. It's a weird, like to be angry against sports, or to think that sports are out to get you, professional sports especially. It's like, there's not many people out there with that view. I'm sure somewhere on the internet, there's like a group of conspiracy theorists that don't believe in professional sports for some reason, whatever it might be. Maybe, I don't know, but there's not many of them. So the overall,
it'll be Epstein. It's always Epstein.
Exactly. He's got some hand, in soccer. But there's not. So people say it's an easier path in, right? It's like maybe now people require one less touch to just put in a little bit of energy to look it up. And you're finding that with players. We're finding that with organizations, like reaching out. That was the one thing that, as we were doing all the work behind the scenes to figure out, well, how is this actually going to go for us? We were really internally quite, focused on, let's make this work. We don't want it to to fall over. We don't want any of these things to happen. We were not anticipating the level of response from, number one, other sports teams, other organizations reaching out, other small companies, right? Because again, we are not the New York Yankees. We are not Manchester United. It's a fairly small organization. So we don't have the same access to resources like your lawyers, your engineers, all those things that we've talked about on before, about Michael Saylor and things like that. This is a different way of getting on the Bitcoin standard than a larger organization might take. So it's been really interesting to see the response and the enthusiasm, and so many of the things when we go on mainstream media where you're expecting like negative pushback or some sort of question, like a hardball gotcha question, is like that just hasn't happened. They not even like a hint of what about the volatility? Like the volatility thing comes up still, but it's not like, it's more like an accepted, like, oh, I've heard Bitcoin is volatile. Not like it's a volatile thing, so this is never going to work. It's more like inquisitive, like, oh, why is it volatile? Volatile? Well, I don't understand. Like, is there any pushback? And then you can just go into the explanation. But it's so positive, the responses that we have been getting, both from the media and from other organizations and other players reaching out. Like, it has been, nonstop really since the announcement of getting on calls and talking with other organizations. Like, this is how easy it is. This is how, or people reaching out trying to orange pill their company or their organization, or can you speak to this person? It's not a bold statement to say that we're not the only ones that are going to be doing this. It's not rocket science, right? Yeah. Like, from the inside, the people that understand where this is going, it seems like, of course, what took you so long? And from the outside, I think slowly but surely you're starting to see that it becomes more and more legitimate, and less of the pressure is like, if you're a Fortune 500 CEO now, significantly less risk because of what has happened at MicroStrategy. Even if you hint at the possibility that this might be something to have on the balance sheet, that you don't look near as stupid as you did, 4 years ago, or as risky as you did 4 years ago, right? You'd probably be laughed out of a boardroom. But now it's like, well, you sort of have to take it into account. Your hand has been forced.
You've seen that meme where a guy gets up and dances at a festival, and he's just dancing by himself like a lunatic, exactly. Right? And then eventually he's joined by one other person. So you have the leader, you have the follower, and then you just have the herd, right? Yeah. So Michael Saylor is the lunatic dancing. El Salvador are the dancing lunatics. You guys are dancing lunatics, but as soon as one other joins, and they will join, you look like visionary. Well, you frankly are visionary.
That's because everyone's watching.
Yeah, well, they are. But it says you can't not watch. I mean, even, I don't know if you've noticed. I mean, I'm not a big consumer of ABC, but in the last week, every single day, there's been an article about crypto. You can't avoid, and not that I don't want to go down the crypto line, but you can't avoid, it crossing your, you're just what you consume every day. It's just impossible to avoid now. And then ultimately, anybody who cares enough to look will find the best answer. And then if there are people like yourself who have, you've been around long enough and you're able to answer because you'll have had the questions too, right? You come in 15, 16 or whatever, and you'd have had questions as well. But slowly but surely you become more comfortable at answering the questions, and there's not really a curveball coming at you because
nice.
Do you like that? Do you like what I did there? But there's nothing really coming. There's nothing. I can still remember standing up giving a presentation in an office job, and when you don't feel like you're the most knowledgeable person in the room, it's very uncomfortable because there's a question out there that could make you feel difficult, awkward. But if you're very comfortable with your answers, and you're very comfortable that you've got a different answer for different audiences, your players versus your board or whatever it might be, that's, you've got them. So let's go there. So in terms of the league, what's the response been from other teams in your league? Because obviously that's a competitive angle too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, and this is probably not what you would lead with, but the reality is if this works, if Bitcoin continues on the trajectory that it has been on since its inception, the Perth Heat are going to play, we're going to be at an extreme outsized advantage over all of our competitors. And then the question becomes, well, how long do you wait, or how long are you able to wait to see if that reality plays out if you are one of our competitors? So the game theory kicks in of, okay, well, if this works, and if the Bitcoin on the balance sheet means that It changes how we have to operate as an organization. So, from the business side of things, how the time that is spent and the energy that is spent inside of the organization, how that changes when we can start to plan for the future based off of the returns from something like Bitcoin, right? Just on the sort of number go upside. If those things play out and we gain a huge advantage, will that last? Will you be able to do that for one season? Will you be able to do it for two? I mean, it really puts a lot of pressure on everyone, just like MicroStrategy puts a lot of pressure on everyone to now, like you said, you can't really avoid it, right? In normie land anymore, the idea of Bitcoin or sort of crypto for people, this forces people to look, and it forces everyone around us to look. Like I was saying before, with the owners, it's like now they may have heard of it, may have been a little something that they had been interested in or dabbled in, but now skin is in the game, and skin is in the baseball game. And now if you're an organization and you start to see the benefits, well, is it the Bitcoin that provided the benefit that we're now seeing? Like if there's any amount of success, you have to attach Bitcoin to that success, right? That's the way that it goes. So the interest that we will see, we think it's going to work. We think we're going to see all of the teams eventually get there. It's just about how large of a lead are we going to get? How long are they going to wait, and how long are they going to be able to wait? It's not immediately apparent, but if I was someone else and I saw someone doing this, I would be worried. I would be very nervous as to we're going to miss something, and I wouldn't want to be in that spot.
So, 100%. I mean, so I can tell from you can tell from the enthusiasm coming through your voice, and from the other things I've listened to, you're incredibly confident in where this is going. We are too. So how do you sort of rein that? Like if somebody asked me where I thought let's just talk about the price for a sec. Where I thought the price of Bitcoin was going to go, I mean, I just rein that in because I think if I told people what I genuinely believe, they would just laugh in my face. So you have to start somewhere else. But like, if you actually just let the thesis play out long enough, I mean, what is the potential for a baseball team in Australia? Like, I mean, it becomes an international game. You actually, you play the Yankee. I mean, what is there do you guys have a goal? Like, what this could actually be if things go as well as maybe we think?
Yeah, I would say the goal is to be the best baseball team in the world. Like there is no why shoot for anything smaller than that, especially when we know the advantage that we have. So it's like it depends, again, back to that theory of competition of who else will join, how fast they're going to join, right? It's an uphill battle. We know it's not going to be easy. We know there's going to be hardships, but why shoot for anything else? It's like you say, when you meet someone on the street and they ask you what's going to be, what about this Bitcoin price? You think it could go to 100,000? It's like it's a really hard question if you have 2 minutes. But if you can walk someone through the entire process in 2 hours of dedicated, them being open, willing to listen, understand what money is, understand the limitations or the inebriation that we have experienced in the legacy system in terms of efficiency, and how Bitcoin makes everything more efficient. And with everything more efficient means more accessible energy for everyone in the world, right? And everyone is incentivized to be as efficient as possible. That we don't know what we have left on the table, right? We don't know what we're missing out on because of the negative impact that many don't even know exist in the fiat system. Like no one is bullish enough, right? Even what's his face with the infinity over 21 million. Like that's not even bullish enough. Like there's no, it's hard to explain, but you can get there in a pretty direct line pretty quickly. And the history of Bitcoin has proven that every day it gets more and more likely to be the case. And what you're investing in, right? A lot of times people get confused. What the Lindy effect of Bitcoin, at least in my mind, is not, okay, yes, the system has to keep going, the network has to stay up, the nodes, miners, everyone has to, the protocol has to work, right? Okay, we've had whatever since 2009 of that. But really the investment thesis that you are buying into is, will humans continue to unlock more accessible energy in the future? Like, will we have more energy reserves in the future than we do right now? Because for the last however many thousands of years, we have increased our ability to have accessible energy on demand. If that is the case going forward, Bitcoin wins, right? Bitcoin gets better. Everyone around you gets better. The whole world gets better as long as we are able to access more energy, because energy is then plugged into the system, right? And as it's plugged into the system with a hard cap of 21 million, Your portion of ownership stays the same, but you have access to more energy, right? So now anything you can do anywhere, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if Elon Musk comes up with a self-driving car that no longer requires people to drive. That excess energy that Elon is going to experience, that energy that was previously required to drive, right? All that energy can now be plugged into the Bitcoin system, right? So everyone benefits. Elon obviously benefits, right? He's going to get a lot of energy reserves for unlocking that energy. But it's the same as if a farmer in Kenya comes up with a better way to farm the crops that he has, or to improve the yield. He can plug into the same system, and he can give energy to the entire system, right? It's not limited. Anybody. It's permissionless. It's decentralized.
And it was the point you made. I heard you make the point the other day. Basically, everybody working on or for Bitcoin is working for Perth Heat. Everyone.
Exactly. And
you don't have to pay them.
No, not a dime. And the beautiful thing is everyone that decides that they are going to store their energy in Bitcoin. If you think about the process of a transaction, like how do you join? If you have energy, right? That's what you do in your job. Every action is you unlocking energy that was previously inaccessible, right? It was used for something else. Like maybe the energy, like that's how you make a living. That's how you make money. That's what money is, right? It's a call option on future energy. Every time that you do that and you want to join the Bitcoin network, you want ownership of a portion of the entire network, you're basically going to the world saying, I have energy that I have unlocked, right? I have it. I unlocked it, but I don't want to consume it. Is there anybody in the world that thinks that they can use this energy to unlock more? Because the only reason that you would get out of the system logically is because you think you could unlock more energy with that, right? It's like that's how you gain access to more energy reserves, is you have to use it in a way which returns more. So the only reason that someone would give you ownership of part of the total supply of energy is because they think they can do more. If they don't, they get punished because they don't have the same ownership over potential future stores of energy. Right? So it gets very crazy when you start to think about what exactly is going on. You're storing your energy and you're saying someone else use it. Someone else use it to get more. And if you do get more, I win, you win, everybody wins. I can't use it right now. If I could efficiently, like if I could use it to unlock even more energy, well, then I would do that. But I can't come up with an idea that good. Somebody out there will come up with an idea and they're willing to sell me part of the entire supply forever going forward. They're willing to sell me that ownership for today, for the energy right now.
Yeah, you mentioned Knut Svanholm before, and that was
sorry. What's his face?
What's his face? I was saying that. What do you call what's his face? Yeah, sorry, yeah.
That's Sweetworthy.
He was my biggest. I don't know if you read his Citadel 21 article. Well, how long ago was that? Maybe 18 months. And it was like, it's not just infinity divided by 21 million. It's like, it's not just everything there is. It's everything there ever will be. That is, if the three of us got together and created something that people valued, that is more value. And that value has to be squashed into something. And that is a number of 21 million. So, and again, we all benefit from that. It's not just everything there is, it's everything there ever will be. I mean, it is mind-blowing. We've never had anything that it's hard to wrap your head around. But anyway, go on.
I've got a practical question.
You're not going to get in the team.
No, I'm not going to get in the team. No,
you never know.
I'm past that. I will take a hat.
I'm going to buy a hat.
Yeah. What's the kind of custody process for a baseball team or an organization? Like how, without obviously going into too much detail, how does that work? What can you share in that process, I suppose?
Yeah, this was probably, again, one of those things where in my own life as an individual, this is something that you just take for granted. Like, oh, it makes perfect sense. The Bitcoin that you have, you can custody and you can take care of. And if you do it in the proper way, it's nice and easy to take care of. As soon as you get onto the organization side of things, well, there's lots of people involved. Who is going to have the keys? Where are those keys going to be? Who can move things? Who can't move things? Where? And then if we are going to hold our own keys, where do they go? and how many denominations are they? So it gets really complicated. I will say that going forward, so the best solution that we are in at the moment is all of the allocation that is not currently in the treasury. So everything that will come going forward from the season. We're going to be with Swan for the custody of the sort of the treasury side of things. But then through services like OpenNode, right, they can hold sort of they will be doing payroll, all those sorts of back end issues they're taking care of. Obviously, when the organization becomes bullish early 2020, we made a bunch of moves before we could actually make sure that we could do this on a sort of on announcement level. So the organization made moves then. That custody will remain in place. So, but everything going forward will be through Swan at the moment.
So let me just, I know we're on a hard stop, so let me just try and complete the circle a little bit.
Is that another baseball reference?
No, that's just what is it? I don't think so. For me, it wasn't. But if it is, then I'm claiming it. But it wasn't meant.
How many wickets in a baseball game again?
Yeah. So where was I going with that? You're now you're the chief Bitcoin officer, right? How is that for you? Like, as a guy who's sort of 15, 16, 17 coming in and spending so much time, I'm sure, knocking your head against the wall trying to convince people that you were right, finally starting to have some traction, and now you get to the point where you are recognized as the chief Bitcoin officer for a large sports team in Australia. Like, how is that? There's plenty of people out there desperate for a Bitcoin job, and you've just landed the Bitcoin job. So yeah, tell us about that.
I would say I now have the pattern of thinking even more ingrained than I did before, which is I am constantly the best part about Bitcoin is, and Bitcoiners in general, is that if you sound crazy, you should probably look into why that is. It's like I want to know if I'm putting my energy into this thing, and a lot of that energy into it, I should be pretty sure. I should have some sort of semblance of what this thing actually is, and I'm looking for the most solid arguments that I can possibly find against it, because if those exist, I want to know before anyone else knows. I want to be the first one to find those things or to recognize those things. And every time something does come up, I'm going to, even if it's the same questions that have been coming up for the past 13 years, I want to know. I want to rehash it again. Like, am I crazy? Is this going to work? This is the reasons why. And you just keep on going over and over. So I wouldn't say my mindset, even more so, is like the more responsibility that you take on, the more it's like, I got to be sharp. I have to know this stuff in and out. And it's benefited, obviously it improves your conviction the more that you see and the more dominoes that fall. Even now, it's like you see something like MicroStrategy. It's hard not to, again, you're trying to stay humble and stack sats, but it's hard not to go, well, okay, that I was sort of right. Like, this is working. This is sort of making sense. But from a job point of view, it's really easy now. Like, the hard part for the chief Bitcoin officer is sort of past this, in the sense of setting it all up. Now it's just, the day-to-day operations are making sure that everything is going smoothly, making sure that everyone understands the system and they're keeping up to date with it, making sure the organization is staying on top of it and is leveraging the network as much as it can, because really the whole point, the big selling point for the organization was just the amount of efficiency improvements that we could immediately have. And that idea of having everyone work for us, and everyone out there improving things for us. We've already seen that, even in the little time that we've held Bitcoin, just how much it has improved overall. And so there, it's, again, you sort of stay on top of it. But really, even when you get into the boardroom meetings once a month, it's like, do we have a different strategy? No. It's the same strategy as last. Let's try and get as much Bitcoin as we can. That's the whole goal here. Like, let's try and get it as much as we can. Let's try and get it from every avenue that we can, because we are providing value, hopefully, to the network. So I would say, yes, if you are interested in a Bitcoin job, I would highly recommend the CBO opportunities. And that being said, like, for hope for people out there, the people that we have been talking to, like I say, in this size organization, there's so much interest, but they haven't done the hours. They don't know it's something new where it doesn't matter what you did before, right? Everyone has essentially 12 years of history with Bitcoin. So it's like, you can only have been an expert for 12 years. So now you're not trying to, become a doctorate of whatever it is that has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years in the study that you have to catch up with. It's like, if you start running now, you'll get pretty far before everyone else. It's just like, so the organizations out there are looking for individuals who can tap into this and who can say, okay, well, to help us onboard us, help us find solutions and help sell, because that's what we're doing now. Like, you're there selling the idea of why this is going to be beneficial. But yeah, it's exciting.
When you first got when Bitcoiner Jobs first launched, it was full of the technical jobs, and you're thinking, it's probably not for me, it's not for me, but it's starting to see, if you actually go in and look at it today, Bitcoin or jobs.co, I think they are, if you actually go and look at it today, I bet you find that there's maybe 5 or 10% of the jobs you think, oh, maybe that could be for me. maybe I do have those skills. And then that's when it becomes really interesting, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you get anything else, I've got one big question, but you no, so
He's got 5 minutes. So.
yeah, I know. The big question is merch. Right? We when is the new Bitcoin hat available? I am very keen. And can I pre-order now, or what's the story there?
Yeah, I think you can pre-order in
Cool.
the Bitcoin shop now. Definitely on the website,
Okay.
you can pre-order all that stuff. But I'm not getting my hat until the first shipment in January. I think it was
Okay.
6 weeks out. So yes, you will not get it for Christmas. But you can print out a little. Well, you don't even have to print it out. You can just NFT a little JPEG of it, and you can have that. I'm just kidding.
I'll just right click it. I'll right click it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Hats and I have already talked about actually going for a trip to Perth.
Yeah, I mean,
So would you be happy to give us a tour?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Like it has, we had the first event with Bitcoin at the ballpark. Like since we made the announcement, had a movie night there where people would pay in Bitcoin, and so many members of the community, of the Bitcoin community, came out just to say, okay, this is my first Lightning transaction. It's like in real, like accepted at the ballpark. You get a beer, you give us Bitcoin over the Lightning. Like it's been really awesome to see the response. So yes, definitely, one and all Bitcoiners welcome to come down and get a tour. And there's going to be some, there's some really big, exciting announcements that are coming from the heat, and stuff that hopefully will, again, back to the ethos of Bitcoin. It's like, don't trust us. Don't trust us. Like, wait to see what we do. And hopefully, hopefully we will continue to try and represent what we think is the best way forward. And we think that's Bitcoin. So there's some really exciting things. And if there are individuals out there that are looking to help support that, it's like we are looking for those opportunities too. Like we don't know everything that is out there that can be beneficial. We've got lots of ideas. There's been a lot of interest in people coming to us and organizations, but you've seen probably where the majority of the sponsorship money is coming from when it comes to leagues and teams, and we're trying to do something different. So it may not align with what has happened in the past, and it's exciting though to see the developments that are coming. So
That's great. Well,
definitely come over for a game.
We'll definitely be paying attention. Mate, that's fabulous. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day. You want to send us off to either your own Twitter or the club website or the team website?
You Google Perth Heat, you'll see us. I encourage you to check out everything and again, keep up to date with what's happening. There's going to be a lot of exciting things that I think, things that I have been waiting for and waiting to see, and interest in projects that will help push it forward. I think we can say those are in the pipeline. So this isn't just a one-off thing, right? It's like, again, we're not trying to gain attention for some fan token or something. This is the path forward, and we're glad to be a part of it.
Forever, Laura.
Exactly.
Hey guys, if you've made it this far, thanks so much for listening. The plan with the pod is to do sort of guests one week and myself and Brendo the other week, so hopefully that's working for you. If you don't like one of them, just listen to the one you do like. If you want a little bit more information from us, you can find it at bitcoin-first.com/learn.